Unfiltered, episode 362, coming to you live from Nashville, post-draft. I'm here with my co-host, Matt Rip Smith.
Good afternoon.
So, let's just get right into it here. We're going to talk about the NHL Draft. We're going to talk about the Canadiens. We're going to just go through what we saw here. And the first things first, the atmosphere at the draft. So the first day we showed up, it wasn't as energetic as it was in Montreal.
No, like I unfortunately I wasn't able to make it to Montreal due to the deployment, but previous drafts had a little bit more energy, let's just say that. And I feel that part of it was due to the fact that there was 0 trades during the first round, something that hasn't been done in quite a few years. So it was kind of the pick is in, the pick is in, the pick is in, the pick is in. And like the only real energy in my opinion was when Nashville made their picks, when they were booing Chicago, and when Bedard was named, there was quite a bit of energy in the room. And then when Jim Nill took a little bit too long with his acceptance speech for the GM of the year, the crowd showed a little bit of life then. But other than that, it was a little bit dull, but it's still a great atmosphere, great city. The fans are great. Anyone that we've ran into has been fantastic. All the arena staff are really nice and everything like that. So great place to have the draft, but it was kind of first round especially, it was a little bit vanilla. Let's just say that. Yeah,
I think it had a lot to do with the expectations going into day one. People expected to see a bunch of trades. They expected to see movement. And in reality, all the movement was done the day before. And then it was just tick, 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 going through each pick. Of course, when
Neil was taking, I think it took like 6 years to do his acceptance.
People were actually booing and yelling, play him off like it was the Oscars or something. And you're right, the people here were amazing. And I think we deserve to give a shout out to Darren, one of our listeners. We ran into him. We hung out with him last night and today at the draft. Great guy. We had a great time with him. Knowledgeable, because he truly likes us. So clearly he's got great taste.
Yeah.
He was a little disappointed Treg couldn't be here. And as we are, Treg had some issues with his flight. It took me 2 days to get here, but I was lucky I made it. Whereas Treg, his flights were all canceled. He was stranded in New York for a bit, then in Ottawa. He's still not home yet. So I unfortunately couldn't make it, but he did try. Now, the atmosphere in day two was
very different
from day one. There was not a lot going on.
No, and there wasn't a lot of people there either.
No.
Just to give you guys a perspective, it was general admission for, I believe, the 200s and the 300s.
Yeah.
And there were not a lot of people. Let's just say that. There are storms going through Nashville right now. So during, I think, the 6th round, maybe during the early 7th round, they actually advised everyone that there's heavy storms in the area, and to actually stay inside the building, and we could hear the thunder throughout the arena. So even with that, it was very quiet in the draft. Few hecklers, couple guys yelling stuff, as you always see with anything like this, but there wasn't any big home run trades. There weren't anything that you had to jump on your phone right away and be one of the first to get it on social media or anything. It wasn't anything like that. So it was great honestly, it was great. It was good for the families.
Yeah.
And it really put into perspective how much it means to them, because there weren't as many fans and there wasn't as much noise and the ambiance really wasn't there. In my opinion, it really made for quite a moment for some of these families, and you hear these guys' names get picked, whole family erupts, and you could hear it throughout the whole arena. And it was special. It was special to those kids, and congrats to all of them, of course. And We still don't know 100% where the draft's going to be next year. Everyone's been hinting that it's going to be in Vegas. That's what it's looking like. But unlike previous drafts where usually Bill Daly does the last few picks, and they'll say, this concludes the 2023 NHL draft. We'll see you in Nashville. He just kind of said, "We'll see you in the fall," and that was it. So
Yeah, so, but at the end of the draft, there was something really neat that happened. We got to see Mr. Geniality be selected. There's a trade, and it ended up being Tyler Peddle from the Drummondville Goods Jaw. He's a Nova Scotia boy, so they were right next to us. So it was great to watch the reaction of the family. He sat through the entire thing, day one, day two, all the way to the end, and there's a trade to get his rights, and then they picked him. So that was great to see that. Unfortunately, there were some people that we know that did not get selected, and it's unfortunate. We felt that we all felt that they deserved to be selected. Unfortunately, just couldn't. And that's the part that
kind of hurts.
But they're going to have chances for the next couple of years. Teams tend to be drafting overagers more and more now, so it's not over for any of these kids that weren't picked.
that's right.
Now, from there to the reaction by the Canadiens fans about the work done by Kent Hughes and his team. So I think Mark Dumont said it best on Twitter, as he was the only one that wasn't swearing consistently in his tweets. So he said, the 2023 draft feels like the polar opposite of the 22 draft. Guys like Hudson, Beck, Rohr, Gagnon, Engstrom, even Davidson brought good value for the table. A home run draft by the Habs this year. So that seems to be the majority reaction from Habs fans.
It seems to be that way. Before we start breaking down the picks or anything, it was more they drafted for necessity.
Yeah,
it really seems that that's the way that they did it. And we'll get into the picks, as I said, but we knew they were going to take a goalie. I didn't think they were going to take 3.
Yeah.
But for me, it was after they made the trade for Newhook, I really thought that the pick that they were going to make at 5 was going to be go for the most talented player, go for some offense. The Canadians for the last X amount of years have really struggled on the offensive side of the ice. There were some very good players available. They didn't make that selection, or didn't make a selection that would coincide with offensive potential. And you can see it. It's all over Twitter. It's all over social media. People are shitting on this pick.
Yeah.
Very, very hard. And they're left kind of feeling the same way. They're kind of feeling like meh with the picks that they had, and with the year that they had, having early picks in nearly every round, that they would leave the draft with a little bit I don't know, a better prospect pool. And I'm happy with a few of the picks that they made. I'll bring those up to when we start talking about them. But it was more of a play it safe type draft, and they reached on a few guys for sure.
Yeah. Now with the reaction that I see from social media of the fan base, I agree. There's reasons for it. Totally understand that. The majority feel like the Canadiens, they weren't picking up any high upside sliding players. So in prior drafts, like Hudson, he was a high upside player that was sliding, and the Canadiens picked him. So everyone got excited for that pick. Don't get me wrong, it's good. But in this draft, they didn't have any of those types of players. But I don't think that's really the point of the draft, is you're not trying to win the draft that day. You're looking long term. And with this draft, I agree, they were going for need. They filled a few needs: defense, goaltending. And what they did was they went after players that had a very high floor And they had good work ethic, they're competitive, and they fit the character aspect, which in Montreal is really, really needed because you're going to be under the microscope. Even not in Montreal as a prospect, you are under the microscope. So they went after guys like that. There's reasons they didn't pick others like Mitchkov. They were not really impressed with his interview. Not enough to put him ahead of Reinbacher, clearly. And while most people wanted Mitchkov because he's this slick, sexy point scorer, we can't at this day say that's a guaranteed superstar. There's only one player in this draft that we can say that for.
Hampton Slugleski.
Hampton Slugleski.
Yeah. Who went to the Kings. So Bergman obviously listens to this show.
100%. But that was the approach that I saw from the staff in this draft. They were going specifically for certain set of skill sets, but mostly character and work ethic. You can be as skilled as humanly possible, but without that character aspect or that work ethic aspect, you will never be successful. Now, a couple years down the line, where I'm sure there's going to be people yelling, "Oh my God, why didn't we pick this guy or that guy?" Personally, I wanted Leonard. I thought Leonard would have been the best pick at 5 because Smith was gone. But c'est la vie. So why don't we just jump into the Habs picks? We'll go one by one.
Sure.
And we will start with the first pick at number 5, David Reinbacher.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I see what you did there. And you know what? A lot of people shit on Carey Price for this. It happened as well to Pecorine later in the draft. You know what it is, what it is. It really is. Like, I'm like, is it an embarrassing moment? Absolutely. Did he apologize profusely to Reinbacher afterwards? Yes, he did.
It's just one of those things where he zoned out on the name.
Yeah.
Because it's not a common name for Carey. So yeah, sure, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So people can calm down, chill a little bit.
Chill out.
So want to break down the pick?
Yeah.
Do you want to start?
No, you go ahead.
All right. So David Reinbacher played in the Swiss League. Right-handed shot defenseman, 6'2", 194. He's from Austria. Played in the Austrian World Juniors team as well. Blain, I know you got to see him quite a bit, and he impressed. He also played at the World Championships and then had a knee injury, missed a little bit of time there. He was not my first pick. I'll say that. The more I read up on him, the more I've done a little bit of research since last night. I'm a little bit happier. Let's just say that. A lot of people are saying a lot of positive things about him around here. I'm going to give this guy a chance. If he has the potential to be a future top 4, maybe a future top pair on the right-handed side. There's good clips out there of him. He's a fluid skater. He's got a good shot. He uses his size to his advantage, not necessarily the most physical player. He can play the body, of course, but he's more of a gap control type guy, uses a stick, etc. Makes a good first pass, can skate out of the zone, etc. He's still raw in terms of talent, but I think all the tools are there. And I just think that the fan base is being a little bit too hard on him. A lot of which is just it's not right, because you got to think this guy's 18 years old. He's 18 years old, and for people to be posting stuff online regarding Hitler and all this kind of stuff, saying he's the second worst thing to come into Austria and all this stuff, it's just like there's no place for that. No place for that.
Absolutely not.
Now, you can dislike the fact that your guy wasn't picked. That's fine, but that's crossing the line. You're comparing this poor kid to one of the worst people to ever have lived. It's fucking unfair. Leave this poor kid alone. Let him fucking do it. do his job and play hockey. It's just a fucking game.
Yeah.
But on the game, Reinbacher is going to be a very good defenseman. He is going to be, in my opinion, he's going to be a top pairing player. He is not, like an all-star, Hall of Fame style top defenseman, but he is going to be a very reliable defensive player. He'll be able to put up some points. His high end probably going to be around 45, 50 points, offensive high end. But he's a guy who's going to be able to play 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes a night. In every situation, you can rely on him, especially because he's so smart with the puck. As you mentioned, he's not overly physical, but he will use the body. But it's more he uses his reach and his positioning to angle players off, and he is extremely fast for a player of his size. Like Gooley, we saw Gooley last season go toe to toe with Connor McDavid. Reinbacher is the same type of mobility defenseman, so keep that in mind. And it looks like the Canadians were looking to complete a style of blue line they wanted to build. So when Gorton and Hughes were both finally hired, they talked about the type of blue line they wanted to build and the way it'll play, and the way that with the players they have on hand now and who they've been picking in the last couple of drafts, it points directly to that kind of blue line, which I think is going to be one of the more effective blue lines once they're developed. Now with Reinbacher, he can come over to North America next year. He can play NHL, he can play maybe, he can definitely play AHL, but I think he's going to end up playing one more year in Europe.
I think so too. At least one more year.
Yeah.
This isn't a guy you need to rush.
Now I did a full breakdown of this player for the hockey writers. It's out now. You can check it out. I go in depth on his offensive skills, the defensive style of play, the intangibles behind his game. And I'm gonna state this right now. Like you mentioned, I saw him quite a bit at the World Juniors. I've spoken to him quite a bit. I've spoken to his coaches. I even spoke to his family. This kid, during that World Juniors, played that entire tournament sick. He could not eat solid food. He was bedridden between ice times. Even going to practice knocked him out. He was on IV fluids the entire tournament, and he still played an extremely effective tournament, and he could have done much better. Which I think, had he been healthy and played better in that tournament, he'd be higher on people's lists. But I know for a fact, on NHL scouting staff lists, he was extremely high, much higher than people want to admit. So I know he's not the sexy pick, but let's give him a couple of years. I think fans will appreciate the fact that they've got themselves a big right-handed defenseman who plays like a Roman Yossi.
So the way that we're going to do this show, just so everyone knows, we're only going to be talking about the Canadians picks as of right now. Pretty much based on the fact that Trey couldn't join us, and we want to be able to do a show where it's three of us, and we kind of want to break down the draft as a whole. We're going to talk about some other picks as well, mainly with the Canadians, but we can look into the New Hook trade and who was picked with those picks, etc., and how they're going to now be latched to the Canadians until the rest of their, for the rest of their lives type things. But for this show, we're just going to be dealing with the Canadians picks.
Yeah, we'll do a
response to the New Hook trade
with
with
Trent when we
yeah,
get a
chance to have it.
So we'll just move on to the next pick at number 69. In the third round, Jacob Fowler, a goaltender from Youngstown of the USHL. Now you've seen a lot more of him than I have, so I'm going to give it to you.
So Jacob Fowler, he was my pick at 69, actually. Put it up on Twitter prior to, so you can't say that I just said it. I had a feeling they were going to take a goalie. Gagem was the first one to go early in the second round, and then it was like 4 or 5 goalies went in the second round. It was
August
Augustine went, Gajan went, Harabel. Then there was another fellow that went to another tall defenseman, a tall goaltender that went to Anaheim. Don't remember his name. But like all the guys that you expected to go started going, and I looked over at Blain a couple times and said, you know, if they're going to take a goalie, they're going to have to take one soon. And he was my pick at 69. So Jacob Fowler, 6'2". He's listed at 223 pounds. He's from Melbourne, Florida. He played for the Youngstown Phantoms of the USHL, where he played extremely well. He went to 27-9-3 with a 228 goals against and a 921 save for the season, with 5 shutouts. Very good numbers. And those numbers were even better during the playoffs. He was named USHL Goaltender of the Year. And I've heard his ceiling is right up there with all these other goaltenders. I believe he was ranked 5th among North American goaltenders. I think that the sky's the limit for this guy. I think that it was a solid pick. It was a safe pick in terms of selecting a goaltender, and I think that we're going to hear a lot from this guy. I think this is a guy that he's going to be around, and I believe he's going to be going to Boston College next season. So we'll definitely be hearing about him.
Gee, Boston.
Funny how that works out.
But a guy that was USHL goaltender of the year. He was the playoff MVP. Put up just huge numbers. So he's a prospect to be excited about. He'll be that next goaltending prospect in the Canadian symbol or Canadian stable that they've been looking for a while.
Yeah, and he's a gamer too.
Like he's a big kid, like tall.
Kind of length, 6'2", 6'3". He's 223, which sounds heavy, but you see him, he doesn't look heavy.
No.
He looks thin.
Yeah.
He's a very athletic goaltender. And in the playoffs is when he really stepped up his game. He had a 952 save percentage, 1.36 goals against average. And, you know, they did pretty well in the playoffs. Going to Boston College, and that's going to be a very strong team next year. You're going to have the Team USA top line with Leonard, Smith, and Perot showing up there. They were already a very competitive program. Now you get these 4 people showing up to Boston College, and they're going to be very competitive. And keep in mind too, while Trey Augustine and Hrabel were being touted by independent scouting lists as the best goaltenders, several NHL scouts were pushing Jacob Fowler as the top goaltender in their view. So scouting goalies it's hard to do. It's there's a lot more art than science to it. So I'm going to put a little bit of faith in them and say they know a little bit more about goaltenders than I do, which they do. So I'm not upset about that pick, especially at number 69. I think that's a high value pick.
Yeah.
Now moving on to the 4th round at 101st overall, the Canadians stay with the family, and they get Florian Jacki, Arbor Jacki's younger brother, from the Hamilton Bulldogs. 19 years old, left-hand shot, 6'2", 174. So he's not as big as his brother, but he may end up that way. He had 13 goals in 68 games. He had 3 points in the playoffs in his 6 playoff games. And he is a tough customer. He's a Jack guy. He takes after his brother a bit in that end. So I think the Canadians are looking at a player who in a few years should be able to fill a 3rd line role as an energy player and be able to add in a little bit of offense as well.
Yeah, I see him being he'll be, I'm not going to sell the kid short or anything. Happy to see that he was picked with the Canadians. I think it might have been a little bit of a reach. And I think that maybe he could have been picked in a later round. However, the pick's in. He went 101st. And as Blain said, he does play like his brother, even though he's a winger. But even if he ends up being a high energy, in your face type, high forechecking type winger at the NHL level, for a 4th round pick, that's not too bad. So that's kind of what I think that his ceiling's going to be. 3rd line energy guy, but we'll see how it goes. But not upset about the pick. Again, a little bit of a reach, but it's gonna get him. He's gonna be happier with his brother around. His brother's gonna be happy with him around, hopefully. So just hope for the best, and look forward to following them next season when they're going to be the team actually moved to Brantford, so they'll be playing in Brantford next season. So
and keep in mind as well, his dad is a Canadiens fan, so having both his sons as part of the Canadiens organization, it's got to be a dream come true for someone who sacrificed and worked so hard.
In coming over to this country and building a life for his family, and then this is
the fruits of their labor are coming to fruition. We see this. While yes, I think it might be a little bit of a reach, and yes, there were other players like Cole Knuble that I would have preferred. I think Jack I would have been available probably in the 5th round, but I don't think it's a bad pick. Now, again, they're not picking up sliders and high upside type people. They're picking guys who have a certain type of skill set that they're looking for, be it size and strength, but it's all about consistency, work ethic, and their character. And now moving on from him to somebody that I don't think anybody had on their lists, like anybody. I had to look this guy up. He was not on my list.
we had to do this a few times.
Yeah. Bogdan Konyushov, from the KHL, a defenseman, right-handed defenseman, 5'11", 176. He had some good numbers in the KHL. 2 goals, 23 assists in 64 games. He had 5 points in 10 playoff games. And he does look like, just judging by the numbers and what I've heard other people mention, it looks like he's ready to make the leap to the North American game.
I would say so. But I think he's going to be another one of those guys. He's going to stick around in Russia for a little while, and then he'll make a decision from there. He's 20 years old as well. All right, he's not 18. So again, he's played in the KHL. He's played against men. He's put up some decent numbers. So I think it's going to be one of those other type project defensemen, and they'll see how he plays overseas over the next little bit and then make a decision on him. But he's got some talent. Let's just say that he's got some talent. We don't know a lot about him. Again, he wasn't on our draft list or anything, but I'm sure that it'll come out soon, and it'll be another one of those players to kind of follow over the next season or two.
And while he's relatively unknown to people here, clearly Bobrov had a bit of insight in being the Russian factor.
Well, look at Romanov.
Yeah.
Right. Look at Romanov. When we were at the draft, when Romanov was picked, nobody knew who the hell this guy was. No idea who this person was. And he was ranked well outside of the 2nd round where he was taken. Let's just say that. Right. And we just saw this scrawny type Russian kid walking around Dallas, and you see what he's turned into. So I'm not going to say that this guy's going to turn into a Romanov type player. However, I'm going to keep a little bit of faith that even though it's a different scouting staff and everything, I'll keep a little bit of faith that this guy might do something.
And for those who were looking for, these high value sliders, this is a pick that seems like a home run swing. And they're taking a chance on a guy that they think might be able to step into an NHL role and be a solid NHL player for a while, or they'll completely miss. At this point, they took a chance, and we'll see.
It's a 4th round pick.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now the next 4th round pick is someone that I had on my list as one of the top 10 QMJHL prospects. He was the backup goaltender for Quebec City. who ended up winning the Memorial Cup, and that's Quentin Miller. He's 6'3", 180 some odd pounds. You wouldn't guess by the name, but he's from Montreal. So they picked a Quebec League player from Montreal. I'm sure this will placate anybody who's looking for local talent. So he was the backup in Quebec. He had a 911 save percentage. He was 14-4. He didn't have a lot of work because Quebec was riding their starter pretty hard throughout the year.
But William Rousseau will not be, he's not going to be back next year.
That's right.
And if it happens that he does come back for his overage season, he's going to play for the Huskies.
Yeah, he was traded. So that means Miller is the de facto starter for Quebec next year. So he's going to get a lot more time. Fans will get to see a lot more of him now. And honestly, I like this pick. I think this is a high value pick at this rank.
For a fourth round pick,
Yeah.
or fifth round pick. Yeah.
Fourth round.
Fourth round,
Yeah,
late fourth round.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. That's one again that I'm okay with. The two goaltender picks so far, I have no issue with, and the fact that Miller is going to come in, as you said, likely going to be the starter in Quebec. The team's going to go through a lot of changes. Obviously, Patrick Waugh is not going to be around, etc. However, they've brought in a winning mentality. They've got an incredible fan base. They've got an NHL arena to play in. So for him putting the numbers up that he did with the team, being selected by the team, you grew up watching. I'd say it's another one of those safe. It's another safe pick, and it could end up being another high value pick.
Yeah. And I know that Patrick Roy was really high on Quentin Miller. He really liked his approach to the game, his mental side, which coming from Roy, that's high praise. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he's going to progress over the next few years.
Yeah.
Now, moving on to the fifth round, the Canadiens had 2 picks in the fifth round. And with the first pick in the fifth round, they chose a left winger from Sioux Falls, Sam Harris, another 20-year-old, an overager. He's slightly undersized at 5'11", 180 pounds, but he's going to have some time to add some strength and grow a little bit, as he's going to be going to the University of Denver, I believe.
Yeah.
So there's 3-4 years before they have to worry about signing him. He's got some offensive upside to his game. He scored 30 goals, 56 points in 56 games.
Yeah, can't say I can add very much more than that. Another one of those guys, kind of not on our draft list, didn't really know much about him, but that's what you're going to get with these picks.
Yeah.
We study quite a bit, the first round, second round, third round, etc. Look at some goalies, etc. You start getting into fourth, fifth rounds, some of these guys, you know who they are. Some of them you have no idea. Like we heard quite a few names that we looked up from other teams, and these guys weren't even ranked. And it was like, are we sure that it's this guy that they picked? And then you have to wait till Elite Prospects puts them up, and it's like, yeah, drafted 200 in this by this team, and you're like, oh, that's who it is.
Okay. Yeah, but with him, his main skill set, that if you can lean on it heavily, is his skating. He's a great skater. So from what I've heard, I haven't watched very much of the USHL, so I can't really state for certain, but from what we've been told, skating's his main aspect. So if he can make it, it'll be on that.
And then we picked another goalie.
3 goalies. My goodness. So at 144, they selected Yevgeny Volokin, who played in the NHL with Namonti Uguri. He's a 6'3" goalie. He had some pretty decent numbers. He went 26-3, 212 goals against average, and 927 save percentage. So those are decent numbers.
Yeah, they're good numbers.
I don't know if he'll ever come to North America. It's hard to say. From what I understand, his next step is going to be the KHL next year.
But it's another one of those picks that it's like, we'll stock the cupboards, and hopefully a few of these kind of guys stick around, and we'll kind of make the most of them. The problem with some of these Russian players, which a lot of them went in the draft,
Yeah.
right? We looked at each other quite a few times, and we're like, the Russian factor, yes, it's still there. But when it came to the picks that were made, there was a hell of a lot of Russians that went in this draft. So even though a lot of teams weren't able to see these players in person, they're willing to take a shot at them. So we shall see what comes of this guy. I had never heard of him going into today. So again, hope you always hope, right? You always hope that these 5th, 6th, 7th round picks are guys that are going to make it. So he might be the next on the list.
Might be. So from there, the Canadians went to a forward. Shocking. The third forward in this draft, the Philip Eriksson from the Vaxo Lakers of the SHL. 6'2", 172 pounds, left-handed shot, centerman. His numbers weren't great because he didn't play a lot of games, but when he played for the junior team, the J20 team for the Vaxo Lakers, he had 5 goals and 10 points in 11 games, and he had 1 goal in the 3 playoff games. So I'm not 100% sure why he had so few games. Was it an injury? Was it because he was called up to the SHL and just kind of sat as a healthy scratch for a long time? But again, this is one of those picks where you're in the 6th round. It seems to me they took a home run swing on a centerman who they think might turn into another one of their like a Yolonen type player.
Yeah. And with the 6th round pick, you can kind of throw that out, and there was still some decent players available, and like I won't get into it right now, but it'll be something we'll come up on another show. Another guy, no idea who he was, but the numbers that he has, the underlying numbers are positive. You put up 10 points in 11 games. I'll give you I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that you might be able to bring something to the organization one day.
Yeah. So, and then there was a long pause, a long break. This is where the weather warnings were coming into effect. And then the Canadians picked one more player in the 7th round, and that is
Luke
Middlestad,
University
of Minnesota,
197, 20-year-old player, 5'11", 174, a puck moving
defenseman.
So honestly, I think at the 7th round, this to me was, for those who wanted a slider, this is the guy, the high value slider. Here you go. They got one for sure. He was ranked extremely high on pretty much everybody else's list. Craig Button had him at 91. Central Scouting had him at 97. Daily Faceoff 103. The only one that really nailed his spot was McKean's Hockey at 98. I think that was some pretty good work by McKean's. Now, he's fairly good puck mover. He played for Team USA in the under-20, so he's played with Lane Hudson. He had 3 points in 7 games for Team USA in that tournament, and he had 21 points in 38 games for the University of Minnesota. So
he's playing in a good hockey school.
Yeah. And he'll be there for a couple more years. He does need to add some size and strength. He does need to work on a few things in his game, but this is one of those picks where it might hit. He might become an NHL player, and at a 7th round, it's pretty freaking good. The Canadians have had a pretty good go with 7th rounders recently.
Yeah. I'm gonna hope for the best. Hopefully he can do more pull-ups than his brother or cousin. All right. But other than that, again, it was one of those seventh round picks, a guy that dropped. He wasn't drafted last year. He was draft eligible last season. But he put up decent numbers with in the USHL. Put up 55 points in 60 games, and then this year's first year with the University of Minnesota, he put up 21 in 38. So we've seen him play a little bit at the World Junior level. It's worth taking a shot at with a seventh round pick. I've got no issue with this pick either. There's a lot of what ifs, of course. What if they pick this guy? What if they pick this guy? What if they pick this guy? But again, that'll be for another show when we get Traeger on here as well. But overall, what would you rank? What would you rank the draft?
I mean, there's picks that I
Want
didn't want to.
agree with, but
I can put myself in their shoes and see what they were doing, what their plan was, what their goal was. And I think they did well to meet that. Do I think it was ambitious enough? No. So I would probably give them a C+ to a B-.
Yeah, I'd say around the south. I'll just go with a C. I think that the potential is there for some of these players. Mainly for me, it's the Reinbacher and Fowler and Miller as well. But at the end of the day, I think we were hoping that with the fifth pick, there'd be a little bit more to it. And then after that, when 31 was traded, when 37 was traded, and we saw the names that were still available with those picks and the guys that went with those picks, I just feel that it could have done a little bit more. However, not going to shit on New Hook or anything. But yeah, I just feel that the draft kind of left me wanting a little bit more in terms of what the Canadians could have done. However, picks are in. They're part of the Canadians organization now. So I'm going to say as positive as I can and still cheer for the damn team and go from there. But overall, a little disappointing. And I think we got that same vibe from the majority of the Habs fan base on social media and the ones that were in attendance here in Nashville.
Yeah, there's a few that were on social media screaming bloody murder that they were going to burn their jerseys and they've quit the fan base. This is it. They can't take it no more. I mean, ease up. Well, you didn't think that the rebuild was going to take a year and a half, did you? Like, did you honestly think that? I mean, next year, yeah, sure, the team will be a little bit better, but they're still not going to be that good. They're still going to have a decent pick next year. They're still going to need to add pieces. They still need to drop players. I mean, Frank Seravalli was talking about Hoffman as a cap dump, as a possibility happening in the next couple of days. So there's a lot of work left to do. And just because your guy wasn't the one pick doesn't mean that the whole team sucks and they have to die and all this shit. Ease up. But there's a long summer ahead. So as disappointed as you may be, and the reasonable fans, quite a few of them are, some understand why they made these picks and wish they would have done differently. But like you, they're giving them the benefit of the doubt. They're saying, okay, I'll wait and see. I'll put my judgment on this in a couple of years, which with prospects is the better way to go.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to look at a lot of the what ifs. If Montreal would have kept this pick, if they would have taken this player, etc. But like it happens every year. It's just this year there was so many players that the fan base was very high on. But after Smith was gone, after we weren't going to get Fantilli. Let's just say that. Came close. Yeah, but like after Smith was gone, and it got down to what everyone was thinking: are they going to take Matvei Michkov? Obviously, they didn't make that pick. Now it's the what ifs. Now it's the what if we would have picked this guy? What if we would have done this? And again, happens every year. But I'm saying to this to the to Canadians fans, let's just slow our roll a little bit. Let's let these guys develop. Let's let them play their game. Let's see what we have here. Give it a little bit of time before you start criticizing and burning jerseys and saying all these negative things about some of these kids, because at the end of the day, they're still kids.
And I'd like to point out that a lot of the people that are really vocal and very negative, I mean, there's some that are disappointed, but I'm talking about the extreme end. The ones that are really up in arms, screaming bloody murder, making Nazi comparisons,
all the like.
They're the same ones that in 2018 desperately wanted Zadina and thought that Kotkaniemi was absolute hot garbage.
Right.
And then a couple years later, Kotkaniemi's still hot garbage to them, but now suddenly they were, oh no, I wanted
to Chuck.
instead, because Zadina started to suck. So you got to realize that you can't be drafting with hindsight. You stick with the pick that you made and compare who you had to who they picked, and then we can all have a proper discussion. But if the player hits and becomes an NHL player who can do the job, then it's not that big of a miss. I don't think Kotkaniemi was a huge mistake at 3. Yes, they mishandled him, but he's still an NHL player. He's still capable of playing middle 6. At a top 5 pick, you want a star. I agree. No argument. So they go with Reinbacher at 5. People are upset that he's probably not going to be a star. And there's going to be a long summer between now and the training camp. So I'm going to leave this question, an open question to everybody here. You guys can put your comments in the comments on YouTube. What does the team need to do over this summer to win you back, to make you buy into this rebuild again? What do they need to do? So put those comments in, and when we do the next show with Treg, we're gonna take out a few of these top comments and we'll use them as part of the show. We'll give you guys shout outs, and we'll see if who's got some really good ideas out there. Maybe we can hire them on as a GM. So anything else?
I got nothing else, but Nashville has been fantastic. As of all the bars that we've been to. This is definitely it's definitely a destination, that's for sure. If you ever think about coming down here, the food has been absolutely incredible. The people are very hospitable. If you like, you know what, like I'm not a huge country fan. I'm not a huge country fan. However, the bars that we have been to, we were at Tootsie's, we were at Valentine twice actually. We were at Jason Aldean's, etc. Probably hit a couple more spots tonight, but you don't have to be a country fan to be here to appreciate it. The music's fantastic. It's a great spot. It's a great spot. If you like barbecue, you definitely come here. So that's all I have to say. I know that we're about to head out for dinner, so
Yeah, so if you do come to Nashville, watch out for the Staggettes. They're vicious. Just stay clear of them.
They are everywhere. They are everywhere. They will ask you to take their photo, be part of the photo. They might even put a sash on you. I'm pretty sure I'm bride to be now, but I don't know.
You look great in the tiara.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it for us here in Nashville. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, listening, and keep the interactions going. We've had a lot of really great comments from you, from everyone that's listened. Some ideas that we're going to put into place. And again, if we run into you guys in public, that we like that. We like meeting people that we interact with here online. And that's a highlight of the trip for us. So keep interacting, and maybe at the next draft, we'll all run into each other at one of the slots or blackjack tables. So I'd like to thank everyone for listening, and remember, if you're talking